I've seen the importance of just being present and listening and understanding and having a sense of humility and understanding the people around you. And I want to do that as in all my roles as a parent, but I also want to help Lillian understand that too.
Hello, and welcome to Listening for Purpose, Our Campus, Our Stories. I am your host, Cam Haggett, and this season we are talking to people at Valpo about what inspires them and how they discern purpose in their lives. Today my guest is Ryan Cole, director of the Mark and Kathleen Helge Student Philanthropy and Volunteer Programs. Yes. Real mouthful there.
Yes, it is.
So, how's your day going, Ryan?
Day's going well. It's been a busy day, but it's been a good day.
That's great. Okay, so we're going to start off with just a nice, fun question. You're wearing a very nice colored purple shirt there. What is the story behind your shirt?
Yeah, so this particular shirt doesn't necessarily have a story, but the reason I got this one does. So I went and got the shirt at Men's Warehouse when I went and got my new suit jacket, and I wanted a shirt that was purple because I really like it with the suit jacket. It was a suit jacket that I wore at my wedding. I wore a blue suit, and I had a purple dress shirt with it, and that one was worn out, so I wanted a new dress shirt that matched that because I really like the purple-blue combination. Blue is my favorite color. Purple is my wife's favorite color, and it was just one that I feel really confident and comfortable in. So
that is so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the meat of our conversation today, I would love for you to tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself. Specifically, where are you at? How did you get here? And where are you going? That can be in terms of career, relationships, physical, mental, spiritual, anything that you feel like sharing with us.
Yeah. So first thing that comes to mind, it's the end of the semester. So a little bit of fatigue, but trying to finish things up, finishing up just connections with students before the end of the year, trying to connect with them as they head out, but also tying up my loose ends. I'm teaching a class this semester on contemporary issues in philanthropy and service. So finishing that up and then looking towards next semester and even some stuff towards the following school year too. A lot of joy, hope, excitement there. And I've been here since 2018 in this position. It's had a few different versions of what it's looked like, but been here for a little over 7 years. And I've enjoyed the journey. It wasn't a straight path, but the journey that got me here to do this. I'm really big on connecting people to other people and helping them understand their own potential. And I see this job as an opportunity to do that, both for students to understand their potential and to connect with the community around them. So,
absolutely. That is very nice. Okay, so in this season of the show, we are diving into the things that inspire us. Each week, our guests are bringing a person to discuss that has shaped the way that they think about purpose, vocation. That can be someone you know or someone you've never even met. So, Ryan, who have you brought for us to talk about today?
Yeah, so when you first posed this, I always try to think of someone who throughout my life has inspired me or given me direction or guidance. But the person that really came to mind this time was my daughter. She's 5, Lillian. She'll be 6 in January, but just watching her grow and develop has really given me moments of inspiration, given me moments of reflecting on my own identity and the changes that our identities go throughout phases of life.
Wow, that is really interesting. Can you give us just a brief overview about Lillian and, her role in your life? That sort of thing?
Yeah, so I mentioned that Lillian's 5. She was born January 2020, so right before the COVID pandemic. So there was already a lot happening in my life when COVID shut everything down. That continued to change what that looked like for me, but it was great to, the blessing of that year was getting to spend so much time with her. I got to be home with her for the first 6 months of her life and spend time with her and my wife, and moved into the role of parenting a lot more than I thought I would. I was a little nervous. I'm one of 3 boys, so didn't really know what it might look like to raise a daughter, but my wife had some complications, and I had to do more work as far as raising my daughter. And I see that as it was a blessing to get to grow so close to her at that time. And we have a good relationship now and really enjoy. She loves crafts. She's so creative. She loves learning. Right now she's into numbers and she always I love counting. And we love reading stories together and doing all different types of activities together. So.
That is very sweet. So I'm sorry, I don't know a lot about like kids. I don't have any siblings,
All right.
but 5. Where is she at in school? Is
Yeah, so
she
she'll be 6 in January, so she's in kindergarten. This is her
okay?
first year of kindergarten. Those first few years, she was home with my wife. My wife stepped back from teaching for a few years to spend time with Lillian. Then we took her to a daycare a couple times a week, and then she did preschool
Okay.
last year and has moved into kindergarten. Is loving it. She, I heard her this morning say she wants to live at school. Um, hopefully that's not a reflection of our parenting. I don't think it is. I think she just loves um, being with her friends, learning. She loves interacting with the teachers and just always wants to learn more. And it's great to see that passion. And days that I'm fatigued or tired or burnt out, it's nice to see the joys that can come from simple things of just learning things. And it reminds me of some of my past joys, which is some of that reflection on vocation and purpose that I have when I'm interacting with her.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that a lot of people in universities could learn from a 5-year-old the joy of learning
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, what are some of your strongest or your most important memories of your time with Lillian?
Yeah. Um, I think one of the things, this is not one particular memory, but I really enjoy and have always enjoyed reading to her.
Mm.
And that started, we would even read to her when she was in the womb, just pick different books to read to her. But as she was younger, this was the first few months of her life, I would just sit on the floor and she'd rest on my legs. And she'd fall asleep, but I was reading Narnia to her and just reading
Oh.
through that. And when I read, I enjoy reading because I enjoy creating voices for the characters
Mhm.
and coming up with those. And I've continued to do that as she's gotten older. And it just makes the stories come to life more. And it's also a challenge. One of the things that I think Lillian, whether she knows it or not and always asks me to, she continues to challenge me to be creative. And I want to be creative and help her see the joy of things, even like reading and bringing the books more to life. So one of the more, within the past year, we read through The Hobbit, and I loved doing those voices and doing that for her and making it come to life more. So I think reading is a memorable time for us, just going through stories, whether it's audiobooks or reading together, is that. And then just going on walks with her, walking through the woods, her inquisitiveness and watching that. And um, back home this past, it was probably a month or two ago, we went back to my parents' house, and I have small woods in my parents' backyard, and we were walking through, and we've done it a few times in the winter and stuff, and just her and I going on walks is really fun to do. And the creative ways she sees things that I've seen one way all my life, the different ways that she interacts or asks questions about what's going on in the world around us is really cool, and I love watching that develop.
That's fascinating. So, did she have a favorite book or book series?
Let's see, I think it was probably a year or two ago. So my parents, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and my wife is from Missouri. Each way is about 7-hour drive. So we started doing audiobooks very early. I think we probably skipped some of the simple audiobooks. I don't know if that was good or bad. This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but my intramural team, I play intramural sports here on campus with staff. The team has been the Chewbacca's, and early on, Lillian wanted to know what that meant, and it was a reference to Chewbacca from Star Wars. So we got her into Star Wars a little early. We went to Disney last year with my extended family and introduced her to Star Wars, and she's really been into that. It was mainly through the books. We weren't ready to have her watch all the movies, but we listened to all those books, and I was surprised she had the attention span to listen to that. And I'm sure she wasn't getting everything, but there was that. But then we found one that was more the series that we've enjoyed going through together. Is called Whatever After. There's probably about 20 books in the series. The most recent one and the final one just came out this past September, October, and we just finished it. But it's been fun going through those with her. They're books about brother and sister, probably middle school age, and they go through this magical mirror to different fairy tales. And the characters in these fairy tales that we know become more empowered and have more agency over their life because of the things that the children do and interacting with them. And it's been great to see that. And just my wife listens to this sometimes, but that's been something Lillian and I have listened to throughout and been able to connect on. And then this last one we were listening to, there was an interview at the end, and just hearing her the author's development of that story and writing those over time was making me reflect on the year or two that Lillian and I and Hannah have listened to them. And I think those will be not that I'd say hopefully they're a core memory for her, but they're definitely a key memory of me as for me as she's developed too. And I hope they're stories that we can go back to and listen to. And it's been fun to watch her engagement because it's the first stories that we've had that had more of a meta narrative,
right,
instead of a standalone story within a series. So it's been fun to follow that meta narrative with her.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I remember that series from when I was coming up, like elementary, middle school. It's really interesting that it's still around.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that point about how, like, I'm sure that she's experienced like more simple narratives, but it's really interesting that she's like getting into like the sort of meta narrative type thing, especially so young. I mean, still in kindergarten. It's really great that she's able to like enjoy and connect to those more complex narratives. Yeah, I mean, it seems like you and Lillian are very close. That's amazing. She seems like a very interesting kid.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that she's really into like being out in nature. Do you know what really connects her to nature in that way?
I think she likes just exploring. We pick up leaves sometimes. A lot of it is just seeing what's around, going on walks. One of her favorite places on campus, and probably one of my favorite places on campus, is over by Guild Memorial. So we live on campus on McIntyre Street, and we walk over there sometimes, and she calls it her like tree house or something. Those pine trees right there on the left side of Guild Memorial as you're walking south on campus, you can get under the pine trees and there's an opening there, and she likes going in and hanging out there, and we just sit there, and sometimes we'll climb a little bit, but just being surrounded by it and seeing all the things around her. And a lot of it too is she loves crafting. She'll take anything, she'll want to save it and craft, and there's a lot of things that we can craft with outside too. We've taken wildflowers before and pressed them, and then we do all these things as a family, but there's a lot of ways to craft with the outdoors too, and she likes some of that stuff too. So it's just that exploration.
That's so cool. So crafting wise, what sort of things does she enjoy making?
Yeah, I think drawing is one of the things she goes to first. She loves just drawing stories. She's come up with a fictitious, this is from a few years ago, but it's one of the stories, but there's a fictitious planet that she came up with. So she's drawn some of that. She'll draw things with what we've read. We make ornaments. We made ornaments last year. Last year she wanted to do crafts, and we pulled out a bunch of stuff, and she wanted each of us to come up with a craft. And that's one of those moments where like, I studied science, biology, and different things, and I like being creative, but I don't always tap into it. And that was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I can do this, but I need to like tap into something that hasn't been pulled out in a while. And we each came up with a craft to teach each other, like in the moment. So like that. So doing that is fun. But I don't know if there's a specific type. It's just like, if there's materials there, she just will pull it together. She likes making books, and out of anything really, she'll just pull it together and find something. So it's that observing the world in a different way that's really cool to see.
Yes, that is really amazing. So how has Lillian shaped the way that you think about purpose in your own life?
Yeah. Well, one way is just obviously as a parent now. That's another role that I've taken on, being a parent and a co-parent with Hannah, and figuring out what that looks like to balance the commitments that we already have, whether it's the work that we're doing here on campus, or the other roles that I play in my life as far as a son and a brother, and even a community member, which is a neighbor, is really important to me as well. But it challenges me to reprioritize. Family is really important to me and always has been. And some of the things that I've always done and know that I still could do sometimes I need to look at them in a different light now, because I want to make sure that I'm present in my daughter's life and my family life, and present for both my wife and kid. So I think the biggest thing is like, what's important right now. Like if there's been times where I've invested more in students and student groups, and I still do that in different ways, but sometimes now it's inviting Lillian to come with me to things, or coming with me to activities. You'll see us on campus sometimes, and having her experience that instead of me just being present all the time and not present at home. And there's been moments where I'm putting her to bed and she's like, why do you have to go back to campus? Why are you always working? And those are the moments that I'm continually challenged to think about, like, what does it look like to have this? And it's the conflicts of the dual, not just dual, there's multiple callings, but all the callings and how to balance those, and do that not just on my own, but with my partner as well.
Yes, that is really interesting. So, astute listeners of the podcast may remember that Lillian featured on a previous episode because she was present at the Ofrenda crafting night earlier this semester. So, how does Lillian enjoy coming to events with you and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think Hannah and I both love bringing Lillian to campus and seeing things, wanting her to know about all the different activities that are here, learn about different cultures when we go to cultural events or different things there. And I would say she's an extrovert. She likes getting to know people. She's shy at first, but she loves just meeting people. And she likes seeing the different activities and being around people. So she doesn't want to always just be home. There's her moments where she wants to be home, but she doesn't always just want to be home. She wants to go and check things out. So she loves coming to the things, especially when it's groups or people that she knows from other activities. She participated in the kids camp. This summer we just started a kids camp on campus. Chris Smith did that through Rec and Wellbeing. And she did that and she got to know some more students. So she loves seeing those students. And I think coming to campus and seeing people she knows is fun. When she was younger, it was really just the idea of going to Founders. She loved going to Founders for meals. And you'd think she would have wanted all the different food options there, but it was really the Lucky Charms and more so the marshmallows that she wanted to eat.
Relatable.
So yeah, I think it's just being around that. And for me, I'm a first generation college student. I hadn't been to a college campus too much until maybe like 7th or 8th grade, and then was still and then high school through sports and different things. So the idea that she's already experiencing a college campus is unique to me. Hannah's not a first generation college student, but just that idea of like watching a kid being raised and having the opportunity to go to these things since we live on campus and get to rent from the university, I think is unique. I've even had her come to my class during the first few years of, she might not remember this, but I teach classes outside the first couple years around COVID, and I did a few in my backyard, and William would be there participating in the class too. So that was cool to be able to have her come and participate in that way too.
Yeah, has bringing her to events and things like that on campus given you a different perspective on campus culture or the people who are involved on campus and stuff like that?
Yeah, probably few different ways. I think sometimes bringing a kid to campus allows you to interact with students in a different way. The students who like interacting with children will come up and talk to her, talk to me, so it's a good connection point there. But I also think it helps keep me to be more in tune with all my identities. I think it's so easy for us to just be in our professional identities in the workplace. But having Lillian come with me sometimes, though if she wants to do something or she's been at meetings, it can like test my patience, but like it helps me remember like what's important to her, but also keeps me, I think, more authentic and real with the people that I am interacting with on campus too. So trying not to segment my identities, but parse them all together. My students in my class, sometimes I'm probably too candid with like just what's going on in my life and the different aspects, but I think it helps see a fuller picture of who we are and not the cookie cutter idea that sometimes we get of the things that go on in life.
Yes, absolutely. That's really interesting. What would you say have been, oh goodness, sorry. What would you say have been some challenges about like your journey of finding your new purpose as a father and also as all of these other things?
Yeah. I think I'm an extrovert. I love being involved in things. And I would say this is a challenge, not only in my vocation as a parent, but also as a spouse and partner, continuing to figure out that balance and what it looks like. Because when I was in college and even out of college, I was the person that I don't usually stay home. I'm not a homebody. I go out and do things I liked being out on campus all the time, involved in things, probably too much. I was over involved, but engaged with a lot of different things. And over time, it's challenged me in good ways to rebalance my involvement with things. And as I mentioned earlier, reprioritize different aspects, but looking at what is important. And I think those change for us, our values and things change throughout life. And when it comes to involving other people that are closer, I think being in higher ed, I've always had other people like students and engaging with them, but other people that we interact with from day to day, and where I was reading something more recently, there's this idea of when we switch from just being dependent on people and someone becoming and more independent, and then someone becoming dependent on you. That idea of when someone's more dependent on you, like my daughter, or what it looks like when partner or spouse is dependent on each other too. That dependence has changed. And I think that's been a challenge a little bit. And sometimes I just want to go be involved in a lot of stuff, but I have to watch the selfishness of that. And also think about what, from my daughter's perspective, what is that teaching her if I put those things ahead? And then there's times where I need to also think about like, well, I need her to see that I'm involved in other things, and it's good to be involved. And some of it's a conversation with her. Some of it's helping her see that her mom and dad have other things to do and that it's all right, and we want her to be engaged too. But if we were always to just do that all the time, then I don't think that would be healthy either. So that balance has been hard. And I don't think I'm trying to necessarily get to one perfect balance of life, because I think it continues to change. I'm sure there'll be other things in life that bring about challenge with ways that we balance it once. If anything ever happens that we need to go home, closer to home for anything, like those will be challenges too. But figuring that out has been probably the biggest conflict. And do you mind if I go a little further on this too? I think the other thing is too, especially with a child, and realizing sometimes I forget how young Lillian is just because of some of the ways she interacts with me. And sometimes the conflict is realizing that I expect her to be this perfect individual out in public, and I start realizing how I'm more worried about what other people are thinking than what my interaction and my daughter is thinking. So like when she was younger and we were in church, and she'd just be like drawing attention or like being a child and making noise, I started realizing and reflecting on myself being anxious about that. And that's been, and trying to reset my perspective on that, and like, where's my priority? Is it on the people and their perceptions of me, or is it on my interaction with my daughter? And in those moments, depending on how, and I didn't always do this perfectly, but depending on what perspective I was focusing on, my interaction with her and how I handled that was different. And I still see that come up sometimes too. And I want my priority to be more on the letting her know that I want to understand her feelings. But sometimes it's easy to sink into this idea of like, oh, but other people are like looking at us or like drawing attention to that. And I think that's just this idea of like, we always have to put our perfect selves forward. And that's not what I want to do, but it seeps in sometimes to do that too. So.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. It can be really hard to fight against, perfectionism, and especially thinking that other people expect you to be perfect. So I see how having a child, especially a younger child, would add like an extra level of complication to that like very human struggle.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, because it brings in that realness. I don't appreciate it in the moment, especially if I don't keep my cool. But I appreciate it that she draws me to being more intentional and real and authentic.
Absolutely. That is really interesting. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Join us on Wednesday, February 4th at 3:30 p.m. in the Helge Center Multipurpose Room for the next event in our Pathways to Purpose series. Come hear Professors Amanda Brooks-Renaud and Amanda Rude reflect on community, food, and story. Snacks will be provided, and the event is view approved. Hope to see you there. Welcome back. I have been here with Ryan Cole, Director of Student Philanthropy and Volunteer Programs here at Valparaiso University. We have been talking about how his daughter Lillian, who is in kindergarten, she is 5 years old, has impacted his purpose and his calling in recent years of his life. So I'm wondering, do you perceive your search for purpose and meaning as something that's settled, or are you continuing to explore that in your life?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's something that continues to change. I don't know if there's ever been a point where I didn't see it as that. I think depending on what happens in life, it impacts our decision making. I went into, I mentioned I was first-gen college student. At that point, my goal was to go to college. By the time I was done with college, I wasn't sure what to do because I met my goal. But when I went into college, I was undecided. So like, I didn't necessarily know what to be doing. I knew I wanted to do science. I switched a few times, ended up with a degree in biology, but I was also interested in urban planning and public health. But at the heart of it, I knew those are all good interests. I wasn't sure what to do, but I did feel like I wanted to help people, and help people connect, and understand themselves better and see their own, I mentioned earlier, see their own potential. So I think it's in flux, but I think there's some core elements of it. That's always been a piece of mine. It's like, no matter what job I've had, it's always about how do I help people feel more comfortable, empowered, see their potential, and then how do I connect them with things that they're trying to learn. So sometimes I'll be the one that dives into understanding a topic or a focus, and then connecting and helping them understand that. When I was working at my after I graduated from grad school, I worked I worked and managed a grant, but I got connected with a public professional organization there, and I ended up becoming one of the president of that. But it was really to get the students to be able to connect with that professional organization, and I like finding those pathways to help people get connected. And I'm a networker, I'm a connector. That's kind of what I do, and I think that's at the heart of all those pieces. But what that looks like clearly has changed, and that balance of how that comes out changes based on the priorities and the different callings that come into my life. Just like as I was mentioning with my daughter and my wife, as those other callings came into my life, I've had to shift it a little bit. Once I was married, some of that looked more like connecting with couples and doing things together and finding that, traveling together. Now with my daughter in the picture is also connecting with families and people at school and finding those connections and doing those things. So it changes based off of the experiences for me.
That's very interesting. So you've had kind of a consistent thread of connection and connecting people to opportunities, but what that's looked like has sort of been malleable throughout your life.
Yeah. Relationships and connections are really big. If we look at Strength Finders, like I'm very relationship heavy on that. So I'd say those are some of the core pieces that come out when I think about calling, and wanting to do something that impacts people, but it's changed based on experiences.
Absolutely. So other than your daughter Lillian, what other people or communities have helped you out as you've discerned purpose in your life?
Yeah. Let me think. So my faith communities, I did not grow up in the church. It wasn't until I started exploring it during the end of high school, but in college I got involved in a lot of the ministry groups on campus, and exploring that. That's where I found my friends and connections, and I just loved the community there and the love and appreciation of each other that the students had, and the advisors. I'd say some of those advisors really helped me from some of those groups. I still meet with some of them. One of the advisors for one of our church groups on campus, it was called ACO Allegheny Christian Outreach. Molly Little was one of the advisors of that, and then the FCA Fellowship of Christian Athletes was another group I was a part of. Both of those advisors were people that helped me both explore my faith, but also explore my purpose in the world, just through conversations. I appreciated both Molly and Sandy in that. And then my peers through those groups, both there. And then when I went to grad school, I had a really good small group community, a really good group of a fellowship of friends from the church that I was a part of in Chicago, and being able to seek them out for, I'm big on, I don't know if I always have been, but I'm big on not just making decisions on my own, but I'm an external processor too. So reaching out to my friends to think through things. And I had a good group of that in Chicago. And that's where prayer also became a big part of, like, thinking through that too. For me, reflection is the other element that has come into it. And that's come through my interaction with people in the Office of Service Learning back in undergrad. I participated in spring break service trips my freshman year. I hated the idea of reflection and didn't want to do it. And now, if anyone knows me, I want everyone to take time to reflect. So I really appreciate some of the people who worked in the Office of Service Learning. If I was to give any names, it'd be Dave Roncolato. Jen Fitch also worked with me from the Career Center there. But a lot of the people in college were helped guide me and direct me through there, especially as a first-gen college student. But I also noticed in those interactions with those individuals, that was partly what drew me to want to work at a higher education institution too, because I appreciated the ways that they could guide me, the conversations that we had, and I wanted to be able to guide other people through that. So that's just to name a few of those individuals from my time in undergrad, and the ways that they impacted me. The other people were just my supervisors. My first supervisor when I worked at the Redevelopment Authority, Andy Walker, really helped me grow into being confident in myself. I was working on downtown revitalization stuff. And there were a few times where I just needed to step into being confident to do different things in the community, talk to our downtown business people, and he was a good guide in helping me think through that, and still a mentor that I seek guidance from today every once in a while.
Absolutely. It sounds like you've had a lot of people who have really helped shape your life. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you feel like they've helped shape your, do you feel like they have helped shape what you want for Lillian and what you want to be for her?
Yeah, I think so. I think just having someone that is attentive, a good listening ear, even if I think back to my parents too. I have a good relationship with my parents. I still call them probably every week to talk to them and seek guidance there. But I want to be someone for Lillian that is present, that is attentive to what she's telling me. Once again, not perfect in this, but I don't want to just jump to conclusions. And I am a problem solver. If you ask my wife, I love to jump in and try fixing something when she presents it, and that's not what she needs, but that's what I like to do. So I have to step back sometimes, but I want to make sure that when something's frustrating Lillian or she's feeling something, I want to acknowledge and appreciate where she's coming from and not just make assumptions. And I think through the practice of reflection that was taught to me through some of those people, and even the ways to interact with community members and listening, have all been great skills to bring about that ability to be able to do that for my daughter. There's a book called The Rabbit Listened. It's a kid's book. I actually read it in my class this year. But it's a book where there's a child who was building a block tower and it got knocked down. And the child is feeling lots of feelings, obviously upset, but there's different animals that come along and try to solve the problem in different ways, whether it's a bear coming and saying that you should be mad about it, or there's other animals that saying you should, I think it was the birds that came in and knocked it down, you should go and do something about it. All these things, but the child doesn't want that at the moment. The rabbit just comes alongside and sits with the child, and then eventually the child's able to talk to the rabbit about it, but it was just the presence of it. And through a lot of stuff, especially in undergrad and through those mentors, I've seen the importance of just being present and listening and understanding and having a sense of humility and understanding the people around you. And I want to do that as in all my roles as a parent, but I also want to help Lillian understand that too. So that is, I think, a calling that I strive to have, and will continue to try to perfect, knowing that there's going to be plenty of things that get in the way at times, but that's something that I want her to be able to see both exhibited and be able to do herself. So.
That's really great. Okay, I have one more question for you as we're wrapping up. What is an idea or way that you would encourage people in the Valpo community to challenge the way that they think about purpose and calling?
When we say Valpo community, we talk about the university?
The university, okay. Yes, VU.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes. What is one idea or way that you would encourage people in the Valparaiso University community to challenge how they think about purpose and calling?
Yeah. Let me think for a minute. So I think, I'm trying to think back. I specifically remember a time in college where I felt like I needed to find a calling. I was reading books about calling and thinking about what I needed to do, and thinking that there was this one answer to what my calling would be or what I should do in my life, and wanting to figure it all out in that moment. And I think if we do that, we limit ourselves to what we can actually explore, because we're trying to think of the end goal all the time. And in doing that, you don't see, we might have a point that we're going to get to. But if we just look at the point, there's a straight line. And a lot of things in life aren't straight lines. I think there's a lot of meandering, a lot of wandering. And sometimes it's just being aware of the inclinations in the moment, thinking back and looking at what has drawn you. And I remember there were times where I had to sit and just reflect. I think sitting and reflecting and taking time is also important. Like that breather, there's so much to do in life that we just keep going forward and just like you're always trying to get towards that goal, that like end point. But if we never stop for different moments to breathe, to reflect, we never see what actually brought us joy. And we might miss opportunities to go a little bit different direction, or a calling that was pulling us a different way, because life does happen and things change. And where you thought you might need to go at one point in your life, it may have changed. And that's not necessarily bad or good, but just being open to that, open to those changes, and taking time to stop and reflect and see where you are right now and what has, in this phase of life, what has brought you joy, what has been moments of excitement. When I did that in college, I realized being on spring break service trips, interacting with people in the community, that was what was bringing me joy. And then I was like, what do I do with that? How do I move forward? And I continue to try to take time to reflect on that now. So I would say taking time to reflect and not just focusing on an end goal and being overwhelmed by that, but looking at the steps and taking steps one step at a time to what could lead to the calling in the moment, the piece in the moment that leads you to a longer term calling. It's easy to look back and see like, oh yeah, this is how I got here. But then if you sit and think about it, it's like, oh yeah, but there was all these other pieces that pulled me different ways, and there were decisions that led me to that. So not getting overwhelmed by the big picture, taking time to reflect, and be willing to shift and move based on the world around us and your own internal inclinations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the show, Ryan. It's been amazing to hear about your experience and what inspires you. What I'm really struck by is, this season we've been having people bring on people they know or people who have inspired them and talk about them. And you're the only person who has brought someone who is younger than them. And I just think it's so fascinating to hear your perspective on how, even though Lillian is 5 years old, how she's taught you so much and opened your eyes to so many things about a world that you've lived in longer than her, but she sees in a totally different way. I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Cam.